You're listening to Small Business in Small Bites, a podcast designed to help you better understand your customers, your business, and even yourself one easily digestible idea at a time. Now here's John Preston.
Today I want to take a moment to talk about how customers make decisions and how important branding is in that decision-making process. One of the things I hear from a lot of business owners is, I did this campaign for 6 months and never got a customer from it. Or, I ran on the radio for 3 months and not a single person came to my business because of that radio ad. Well, part of the problem is their expectations are one of direct response. It's interesting because they think that somebody's going to walk in and say, I'm here because I heard your ad on the radio. And in fact, that is not how most decision making takes place at all. I want to share a story with you that I think will help you understand exactly what takes place in the minds of a customer when they're choosing your business. One of the things I often do is speak in front of Chamber of Commerce meetings and Rotary clubs and places like that where small business owners gather and kind of help them understand a little bit more about their customers. And I'll tell you this story because I think it really will help you better see the world of advertising. I was speaking to a Rotary club one time, made up of a bunch of business owners, and I asked them, if you were to twist your back standing up from your chair right now, how many of you would stagger to your car, drive home, stagger into your living room, and start flipping through the magazines on your coffee table until you found an ad for a chiropractor? And not surprisingly, not a one of them raised their hand. I said, now, how many of you would pull out your phone and do a search for chiropractor? And every single hand went up. So then I said, how many of you always skip the first item in a search? And slowly the hands started to go up until just about every hand in the room was up. Because there's some sort of sense of justice inside of us that makes us skip that first item. Either we feel that they paid to get there and shouldn't get our business, or they cheated the system somehow. So we almost always skip that first item. And so then I said, now I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I want you to take a moment to think about how much money you have spent trying to be that top item in that search. And you can just see light bulbs start to come on. Don't get me wrong. It's very important that your business be on that first page of results. But I'm going to tell you how people use search, and specifically Google. When we search for something on Google or any other search platform, what we're really doing is asking that service for a list of choices. And that's what they provide us, a list of choices. Now it's up to us to decide which one we choose. So I told this group, I'm going to tell you how people make that decision. And I've got the research to back it up, but I'm not going to need it because you're going to know I'm right because it's how you personally make your decisions on searches. What we do is we skip over the first one and then we go scan the rest of the list. And if we only see one business that we recognize, a name we've heard of, that's the one we're going to click every single time. If there are more than one we've heard of, we will assign an instantaneous emotional reaction to that business name. It's either going to be positive or negative. And whichever one gives us the strongest emotional positive reaction, that's the one we're going to click on. So we're going to go down through there and we're going to skip over the first one and we're going to say, haven't heard of this guy, haven't heard of her, haven't heard of her, haven't heard of him. I've heard of this guy, but, oh, wait, this one here, she's in that magazine I read every month. Or I hear her on the radio all the time. Or I saw her TV ad. And I'm going to click on her because I have an instantaneous positive reaction to her name and her business. Now, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to call whatever number pops up. I'm not going to go looking for some special number that was created to attach to some ad somewhere. I'm going to call the easiest number I can get my hands on. So I call that number and I schedule an appointment. And I show up at the office. And the receptionist asks me, "How did you hear about me?" What's our answer always going to be? I did a Google search. Google just created the list of options. Google created 1 bride and 9 bridesmaids. It was other sourcing and the branding that made me pick the one out of that list. But here's one of the little quirks about human nature. We will always give credit to the source that created our list of choices and not the reason why we chose the one we did. And that's a very big distinction. All Google did in this story was give me a list of choices. It was the branding from other sources that caused me to pick your business out of the rest of the list. That same thing happens all the time with Facebook. It happens with word of mouth. If I go on Facebook and say, "Hey, does anybody know a plumber?" I'm going to have 15 friends recommend 14 different plumbers. And I'm going to use that same kind of scenario to determine which one I pick. If out of those 14 plumbers, I've only heard of one, that's the one I'm calling. If I've heard of more than one, whichever one gives me the most positive, immediate reaction is the one I'm calling. So when you're thinking that your campaigns aren't working because it seems like all your traffic is coming to you through Google or some other search engine, think about that. Why did they pick me out of that list of choices? And often you'll realize it has to do with some of those other advertising means that you don't think are working. So hopefully there's something in that story that can really change the way you think about advertising and recognize that there's a lot more going on when people are choosing your business than you think there is. A lot of mind games going on and a lot of psychology that comes into play, but ultimately your brand is what's going to determine the success of your business. And we'll talk a lot more about branding in future episodes.